Good morning students. 12th Accountancy. You are learning the chapter 9 ratio analysis. In ratio analysis, already you have learned the short-term solvency ratios, that's liquidity ratios, current ratios, quick ratios. And yesterday class, you have learned about the long-term solvency ratios. In long-term solvency ratio, the debt to equity ratio. Debt to equity ratio is calculated to assess the long-term solvency position of the business concerned. So, debt to equity ratio expresses the relationship between the total long-term debt and the shareholders fund. And let us learn about the proprietary ratio. So, who is proprietor? The shareholders are called proprietors. So, shareholders ability, shareholders fund and total assets. The relationship between shareholders fund and total assets have been assessed. The extent to which the total assets have been financed by the shareholders. The proprietary ratio shows the extent to which the total assets have been financed by the shareholders. Higher the proprietary ratio, the shareholders have the great satisfaction for lenders and creditors. Higher the proprietary ratio, greater is the satisfaction. Higher the proprietary ratio அதிகமாக இருந்துச்சுன்னா சாட்டிஸ்ஃபேக்ஷனும் அதிகமாக இருக்கும். யாருக்கு அப்படின்னா lenders and creditors. இந்த firmக்கு கடன் கொடுக்கக்கூடிய lenders-க்கும் creditors-க்கும் அது வந்து ஒரு திருப்தியை கொடுக்குது. So, higher the proprietary ratio, greater is the satisfaction. As the firm is dependent on external sources of finance. So, proprietary ratio is calculated to know the long-term solvency position of the business concern. So, formula for proprietary ratio, shareholders fund by total assets. Shareholders fund by total assets. For calculating the proprietary ratio, you have to know the shareholders fund and total assets. So, what are the items added to calculate the shareholders fund? So, shareholders fund is equal to shareholders fund. Shareholders proprietor எல்லாமே ஒண்ணுதான். So, shareholders fund include equity share capital plus preference share capital plus reserves and surplus. Shareholders fund include equity share capital, preference share capital, reserves and surplus. And next item, total assets. Total assets include all the assets in the balance sheet. That is current assets plus fixed assets. Current assets plus fixed assets. By calculating the shareholders fund and total assets, you are in a position to calculate the proprietary ratio. So, higher the proprietary ratio, greater is the satisfaction of the lenders and the creditors. And let us see the illustration 5. Illustration 5. Balance sheet of Pioneer Limited. Balance sheet of Pioneer Limited as on 31/3/19 is given in your book. Illustration 5. In the liability side, equity and liabilities. Shareholders fund. Under shareholders fund, equity share capital 1 lakh. Preference share capital 25,000, reserves and surplus 25,000, and non-current liabilities, long-term borrowings dash, and current liabilities, trade payables 2 lakhs, current liabilities, trade payables 2 lakhs, total of liability side 4 lakh, and asset side under non-current assets, fixed assets 2,75,000. Non-current investments 50,000. Current assets, cash and cash equivalents 75,000. So total of asset side 4 lakhs. Let us calculate the proprietary ratio from the balance sheet. Start. So proprietary ratio is equal to shareholders fund divided by total assets. So shareholders fund is equal to shareholders fund is equal to equity share capital. Equity share capital plus preference share capital plus reserves and surplus. Reserves and surplus. So amount 1 lakh plus 75,000 plus 25,000. Total 2 lakh. And next we have to calculate the total assets. Total assets. Total assets include current assets plus fixed assets. Current assets plus fixed assets. So current assets is equal to 75,000 total assets 4 lakh. அப்படியே எடுத்துக்கலாம். So total assets 2,75,000 plus 50,000 plus 75,000. So total 4 lakh. So now you have to calculate the proprietary ratio. Shareholders fund 2 lakh divided by 4 lakh total assets. 50 cut பண்ணியாச்சு. 1 2 is 2. 2 2s are 4. So 1 by 2. 1 by 2 வந்து நம்ம இப்போ 1 வந்து 2 ஆல டிவைட் பண்ண போறோம். 1ல வந்து 2 இல்ல. So 0 போட்டுட்டு இதுல ஒரு 0 சேருங்க. So proprietary ratio is equal to 0.5:1. Proprietary ratio is equal to 0.5:1. So higher the proprietary ratio, greater the satisfaction for lenders and creditors.